I'm an over-analyzer of my emotions and those people.
So if you're planning on having children, which is of course a beautiful thing, I would also want you to know that it's also absolutely terrifying.
I feel like my body just affected everything. We had a difficult relationship with my body.
I'm like sitting in the bathroom, I'm like, Raj! It's like, what do you want me to do about it?
It's a new age groove, one step at a time. Yeah, we move to the tune while we're set in the style. No, it is what it is. Chamu himu new high.
I think most of what I felt was something nobody could help me with. As in, my mom was there to tell me, your body will be fine. Look at me, I don't have stretch marks, I've had 3 kids, like you'll be fine, it will bounce back. Give yourself time, give yourself grace. Most of my friends are like petite. Actually, there's a friend of mine, immediately after I delivered, like she asked me, kwani kuna mwingine ameachwa hapo ndani? It was the first time I was still sore and everything. So that really affected me, and I don't even think she knows. She didn't realize, and I understand that, but it's because the stomach just takes so much time to go. I felt alone in that. In as much as anybody would have tried to tell me, you're good, you'll be fine, whatever, because there's a lady I had to get clothes from, to buy new clothes from now after that. So she came and she brought me clothes, and I was so sad because nothing was fitting, and if they'd fit, they were like such a big size. So I was like so worried, and she was like, you'll be fine. I think that lady really did something for me. She showed me her pics. She had a 3-year-old. She showed me her pics, and then I was like, oh, then maybe one day I'll be okay.
I felt like I was in a trance, like I was just going through the motions, just knowing where the end is. The end is you're gonna have this baby. But I don't think I realized, like you know what being a mom is, and you know what it entails. But it's only until you're there that you really know what it's like, you know? And yeah, so I had all sorts of feelings, and I did have room for that, and I'm thankful that I had my family around me at the time.
Yes, because I am an over-analyzer of my emotions and those people. It helps you, darling. Yes, I'm that kind of person who's very much in touch. I've been doing work on myself and everything, both mentally and emotionally. So I'm over in touch. I'm still learning. I'm a work in progress. So therefore, that allows me to actually quite be honest, too honest sometimes, about how I'm feeling and dissect my feelings and my mental state. So that is something I share a lot.
Yeah, I did feel it, and I did express it, and everyone who was around me was very supportive in that regard. I was very expressive, I would explain everything that would happen, and because even we are related to some doctors in the family, in case I experienced a bit of spotting towards the end, so I spot something, I will just ask. I was very interested in knowing more, and researching on YouTube and Googling my symptoms and asking people. I feel like that worked for me.
I'd spoken to friends of mine who, were like, 6 weeks before you're due, start putting Vaseline on the nipples because then your nipples won't crack so easily when you're breastfeeding. Buy this cream. This is what happens when your body is coming back into it. This is how your uterus feels. This is what will happen in regards to vaginal discharge. So I wasn't like, whoa. I was like, okay, this is normal. The only thing that threw me off in my pregnancy was constipation. I'm like, what is that? It was so hard. Do you remember that?
Of course.
I'm like sitting in the bathroom, I'm like, Raj! Like, what do you want me to do about it?
First of all, through my pregnancy, I felt hella sexy. Nobody could tell me nothing.
No, she was the happiest.
I really was. I mean, I felt the most beautiful I've ever felt. If anything, the pandemic killed my vibe. Killed my vibe.
You could have been in the club.
As in, you know? Don't even remind
That's
me. Yes. Did I have any expectations after? No. And maybe that's where things get a bit tricky, because my experience before the baby got here physically was quite smooth, and it was just all rosy and beautiful and, you know, rainbows and roses and everything. I think the change after is so drastic that sometimes the brain really doesn't, the mind, not the brain, the mind has a hard time adjusting to that quick change, because it's a lot. And for someone who expresses themselves through dressing, it's a part of me and a part of my personal expression, and it's something I love. It's something that gives me so much joy. I feel like I now was very much aware of the change, the physical change, and it still has taken a while for my mind to kind of grasp with what I'm looking at in the mirror. As I'm still breastfeeding, it feels like my body is not mine. It does feel like I'm still trying to reconnect back to my body, to be honest. I know, I'm aware of what my body has done. I have gratitude for my body. But it still doesn't connect. I think it's really hard to do it when your body is still at the service of your child. Actually, that's what I would say.
Yeah.
It's still at the service of my child. I'm like, it doesn't matter whether you're tired or not. It doesn't matter whether you sleep or not. That's my first thinking. So it's hard to think about any part of my body as my own yet, to be honest. So when I get an answer, a proper answer to that, we shall talk.
My body is the one thing that really affected me, like as a person. First of all, I gained 25 kgs, between 25 kgs and 30 kgs in the 9 months. So during conception, I was about between 70 and 75, and on the day of delivery, I was 100 kgs. So going home after delivering with my body, and also the stretch marks came in when I was 8 months pregnant. So it was just like one day I woke up and I had like big black marks all over my stomach, literally. So that was hard. So after the baby, you have, like, I didn't know my body. Basically, like, I was like, who am I? Like, what did I just go through? What was that? Like, who is this? Like, that's something that really, really affected me as a person. Just the changes that my body experienced, and just feeling so disconnected, like, from my boobs because of breastfeeding all the time, the pain. Like, I feel like my body just affected everything. We had a difficult relationship with my body.
Just the nitty-gritty details. Kitu kama you're knowing that the stitches dissolve by themselves nowadays, and it would have made my healing much easier. So stuff like that, I feel it's really important for everyone to have a support system, of course. And so if you're planning on having children, which is of course a beautiful thing, I would also want you to know that it's also absolutely terrifying. It can be extremely painful, no matter what you choose to go for. Can be natural, or if it's the CS, they can all be extremely painful during, after, before. But if you're able to, do it with a loving partner.
I've recently interviewed a doula, or she calls herself somebody who nurtures mothers, and I really wish I had met her before I had my babies, because again, I think knowledge is power, and she seemed to have so much information about especially the birthing process?
I really focused on the delivery, researching on delivery, researching on how to start like breastfeeding, how to teach the child what to pack when you're going to hospital, how painful is it. Like I focused on the pregnancy and the experience and the body and all those things. But if there's one thing I regret not doing, it's the research of after delivery. Like it's so difficult. I believe it's way more difficult. It's like the fourth trimester after the baby comes, you don't know I feel like I was so clueless, and I was like, why didn't I research about sleep training, about like taking time? I felt like I needed to stay in the house and be a mom and work on it. I didn't feel like I could go back to normal. The whole transition took me a very long time, and I think if I knew what I know now, what I should have researched then, it would have been easier for me to transition and to know what to ask for in terms of support.
It's something that I guess nobody really tells you, is when you deliver your baby, there is a silent twin called guilt that comes and just perches itself. But you have to work on yourself and be intentional and be aware as well.
Yeah, before you get a kid, or as you're getting a kid, just make sure you literally just, like, I don't know, pour out everything inside you and just
Heal yourself.
Yeah, and be vulnerable as you can, because it makes you a better person every day. Like you fix yourself with having a kid, in that situation, because you're so vulnerable, because you're giving your heart out to this kid. You're prone to being hurt by your wife, even by your kid, by people around you, and if you don't, like, I don't know, control them, really, it's gonna mess you up.
Because your child leaves you bare.
Completely.
A child leaves,
Completely.
literally, your child just takes your heart and just leaves it open and leaves it outside. Your child leaves you bare. So the sooner if you want to have a child, that is the best advice I'm giving all my friends. Fix yourself. Fix your shit. Because your child will bring out all those things.
I was set in the style, know it is what it is.